Okay, so are you ready for this? Today, we are going way back for our deep dive.
Way back.
Like ancient Sumerian myths. Back,
no, yeah.
we're talking clay tablets, gods, kings, maybe even some connections to the religions we know today.
And spaceships.
Oh yeah, can't forget those.
Gotta have the spaceship.
We are using excerpts from this Indo-LLM project document, and honestly, it is wild.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Get ready to meet the Anunnaki,
The Anunnaki.
explore how they say humans were created.
Not how we're used to thinking about it.
And we'll see how their Great Flood story might connect to some other familiar stories.
Like, really familiar.
Ever wonder if those Bible stories have really ancient roots?
I think a lot of people have wondered that.
Well, let's find out.
Yeah, let's dive in.
So these Sumerian tablets,
Thousands of them.
dug up in the late 1800s,
Late 1800s.
totally changed how we think about history.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like finding a whole lost chapter.
Of the human story.
Yeah. I mean, these archaeologists are Henry Layard
Layer.
and Hormuzd Rassam.
Wow, what a name.
They were finding thousands of clay tablets.
Hard to even imagine.
I know, right? Imagine being there. Like a history nerd's dream come true.
Must have been incredible.
And among all those tablets,
What did they find?
texts like Enki and Ninmah
Enki and Ninmah?
and the Atrahasis epic.
Atrahasis epic.
And those basically give us,
Not an Nagashi perspective.
yes, their version of how we got here.
And it's not humans are the pinnacle of creation.
Not even close.
It's more like we needed workers.
We made humans.
Yep.
Hold up, so we were basically like cosmic temp workers.
Basically, yeah.
That's pretty different from being made in God's image.
Little bit, yeah.
So who are these Anunnaki?
Right, who are they?
Are we talking like all-powerful, ethereal beings?
Not exactly.
Okay, so not
Yeah,
exactly.
they needed food, they needed shelter,
Okay.
even gold.
Gold.
Gold, they needed gold.
So they sound more like, I don't know, advanced aliens than just purely spiritual beings.
More like that, yeah.
And that need for all that stuff.
The resources.
Yeah, the resources. That's key to understanding why they supposedly made us.
It's all connected.
So they weren't just hanging out on Earth for fun, right?
No, no.
So this is where the Igigi rebellion comes in.
Ah,
In the excerpts mentioned a revolt
yeah, they revolted
against the Anunnaki.
against the bosses.
The EGGs were like,
They were like the junior workforce.
yeah, the junior workforce, and they
Yeah.
just got fed up.
Imagine that. Maybe the world's very first labor strike,
Whoa, that's a thought.
right?
Demanding, I don't know, better working conditions.
Who knows what they were demanding?
I love to imagine that.
Yeah, fascinating.
Talk about setting a precedent.
Definitely did.
Okay, but I bet those Anunnaki bosses,
Not happy.
no, not happy at all about their workforce just walking out.
No, not at all.
What happened next?
Well, they didn't just use brute force.
Oh,
Enki, their, what was he, god of wisdom?
wisdom in creation.
Wisdom and creation. He came up with a different approach.
Okay, more
Innovative?
innovative. Yeah.
He and the goddess Ninmah
In the,
basically create the first human,
like the first human,
Adapa,
Adapa.
using clay, some divine blood, and other ingredients.
So we're talking about a divine science experiment.
Pretty much.
And they just, whipped up humans to replace the disgruntled Igigi?
Sounds kind of familiar, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah,
A bit of a reality check.
it is.
To think our origin story might be less about divine inspiration and more about just, like, filling a labor shortage.
Just filling some jobs.
That's definitely not how I pictured the dawn of humanity.
I can imagine.
But hold on, the excerpt said this first human, Adapa, he was taught all sorts of
He
knowledge
brought everything.
by Enki himself.
Enki, the teacher.
Agriculture, science, law, like the whole
That's the
shebang.
thing.
That's a big detail
Yeah.
because it mirrors other creation stories. Like in the Quran, Adam is taught the names of everything by God.
It's an interesting parallel.
Right.
Yeah.
In both versions, humans get this like crash course in knowledge.
Right, from the source.
Directly from the source. It's interesting.
Very
It
interesting.
makes me think.
Yeah. What does it make you think?
If they were so focused on getting work done, why bother with all that education?
Maybe they wanted things done right.
Yeah, that's true.
A smarter workforce,
Right.
more efficient.
More productive.
Plus, humans needed those skills to build the ziggurats.
Oh, yeah, the ziggurats.
Those things were massive.
Those massive structures, temples,
done.
and power centers.
Huge power centers.
They seem like the ancient precursors to like
Yeah.
all the temples, churches, mosques we see today.
It's a direct line.
Right, it's a fascinating connection.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And even the offerings. Like food and drinks or gold in those cathedrals.
It all goes back to those early offerings humans made to the Anunnaki.
Yeah.
Speaking of gold, why were they so obsessed with it?
That's a good question.
I mean, I get it. It's shiny, it's valuable, but the excerpts made it sound like they really needed it.
Just needed it, yeah.
Like really needed it.
Big mystery.
Researchers still don't know.
Still debating it.
Some people, like Zecharia
Sitchin,
they think the Anunnaki needed it to repair their planet's atmosphere.
interesting theory.
But that's just one theory.
One theory, yeah.
So we're getting into ancient alien territory now.
A little bit.
I'm up for it, but let's stick with what we know for sure.
Okay, sounds good.
It's clear that gold was really important.
Oh, yeah.
Symbolically, right?
Big time.
Think about the Egyptians.
The Egyptians.
The Greeks, Hindus, like gold was practically the same thing as divinity.
Synonymous.
From pharaohs draped in gold to myths about like golden chariots and divine weapons.
You see it everywhere.
The fascination with gold, it spans cultures and centuries.
It really does.
Like it was a universal symbol of power.
Power.
And the divine.
Divine.
But all that glitters isn't gold. Right. Let's talk about the less glamorous side of the Anunnaki story.
The downsides.
The Great Flood.
Oh.
Things get a little dark here.
Yeah, a little bit.
And Lil, the Anunnaki's, what would you call him?
Top dog.
Yeah, top dog. He gets fed up with humanity.
That.
Too many people, too much noise, too much
human stuff.
Yeah, typical human stuff.
Causing trouble, not following the rules.
Breaking things. No, the usual.
You know how it is.
So Enlil decides it's time for a reset.
A reset?
A flood.
A big one.
To just wipe the slate clean.
A fresh start.
But Enki, he seems to have a soft spot for us humans.
Yeah, he does.
He takes pity.
He feels bad.
He warns Yusudra to build this giant boat.
Build a boat.
Save his family, grab some animals while he's at it.
2 of every kind.
That sounds familiar.
Very familiar.
It's like Noah's Ark, right?
Basically the same story.
Both stories have a flood that wipes out most of humanity.
A chosen survivor.
And a new beginning.
Brand new start.
It makes you wonder if these ancient stories were more than just myths.
Maybe they were based on something real.
So the flood washes away most of humanity.
A lot of people gone.
What about the Anunnaki?
Yeah, where'd they go?
Do they stick around to, I don't know, rule over the survivors?
Or do they leave?
Or do they pack up and head back to wherever they came from?
Good question.
The text suggests they leave.
Right. Seems like it.
And it happens right around when Sumerian civilization pops up.
Sumerian civilization.
Around 4500 BCE.
4500 BCE.
And here's where it gets even more interesting.
Even more interesting.
Their departure happens right around the same time as this new concept pops up.
What concept?
The divine right to rule.
Oh, interesting.
Hold on. So how does the Anunnaki leaving connect to kings and queens saying they're like God appointed?
I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
These powerful Anunnaki, they ruled over humans.
Right.
When they're gone, the idea of a divine leader,
it sticks around.
It evolves.
It's like pharaohs in Egypt saying they're descended from God.
And covering themselves in gold.
Oh yeah, gold, to show that connection.
Yeah, to show that connection.
And then there's that whole blue blood thing in European monarchies.
Blue blood?
Yeah, blue blood.
What is that all about?
It's like they were trying to hold on to that Anunnaki legacy.
Trying to keep it going.
To legitimize their power.
Make it seem official.
By claiming a link to the divine.
Like they were chosen.
Even though the quote-unquote gods were long gone.
Gone but not forgotten.
So we're talking about a blueprint for power.
A blueprint.
That goes back thousands of years.
Thousands of years.
It's mind-blowing.
It is.
But let's zoom out for a second.
Let's zoom out.
You said earlier that these Sumerian myths, they have echoes all over the world.
They do.
Are we saying the Anunnaki influenced every culture?
Well, not necessarily.
Okay.
But the similarities?
Yeah, the similarities.
They're pretty remarkable.
Remarkable, yeah.
You find these groups of 3 powerful gods.
Like a trio.
A trio.
In cultures all over the place.
All over the world.
The Sumerian Anu, Enlil, Enki.
The big 3.
They have counterparts in Egyptian myth.
Egyptian.
Greek.
Hindu.
Even Mayan mythology.
Mayans.
Not just the trios either.
Nope.
Flood myths.
Flood myths.
And stories of godlike figures who, like, teach and then disappear.
They teach, they leave.
They're surprisingly common.
More common than you might think.
Wow, that's a lot of overlap.
It is.
Is it just coincidence?
Or is it something deeper?
Could it be like some kind of shared origin for these beliefs?
That's the million-dollar question.
But before we go too far down that rabbit hole,
Found the rabbit hole.
let's talk about one of the biggest mysteries these Sumerian texts bring up.
What's that?
The Sumerian king list.
The king list.
This thing is like a historical time bomb.
A time bomb.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What makes this king list so explosive?
Well, it's a list of kings
Okay.
who ruled Sumerian city-states.
Sumerian city-states. Sounds pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward.
But here's the kicker.
The
It
king.
goes back over 250,000 years.
250,000 years.
We're talking way before modern humans supposedly even existed.
Way before.
Wait, are you serious?
Serious as a heart attack.
That throws our whole timeline out the window.
It really does.
It does.
Yeah.
And get this, the very first king on the list
The first one.
is Alulam,
Alula.
also known as Adapa.
Adapa.
You know, that first human
The first human.
created by the Anunnaki.
Made by the Anunnaki.
His reign,
How long?
a casual 28,800 years.
That's a long time.
That's like 10 times longer than all of recorded history.
It really is.
Are we supposed to take this literally,
Is it literal?
or is this some kind of symbolic timeline?
What do you think?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking you.
Haha. Fair enough.
Some scholars say it's a mix of history and myth.
History and myth.
Others think it points to a much longer human history than we realize.
A much longer history.
Either way, it raises some serious questions.
Yeah, some big questions.
It's like we're just scratching the surface here
It's a very surface.
of some ancient mystery.
Deep, deep mystery.
I'm already feeling like we need a part 2 to this deep dive.
You're just getting started.
But before we get ahead of ourselves,
Not too fast.
there's one more thing from the excerpts that really got me thinking.
One more thing.
They suggested that maybe this idea of constant divine intervention,
Constant divine intervention.
of a god like always pulling the strings,
Always pulling the strings.
it actually limits our potential.
Limits our potential.
That's a pretty provocative thought.
It is, yeah.
If a creator constantly stepped in,
Always intervening.
wouldn't they basically stop being a creator
Not much creating going on there.
and just become more like a ruler?
More like a ruler.
Almost like,
Almost like the Anunnaki.
whoa,
Right.
that's mind-blowing.
So maybe instead of seeing ourselves as like puppets
Puppets on strings?
constantly being controlled,
Maybe it's more about recognizing our own ability.
our ability.
Yeah, to shape our own destinies
Destiny.
within like a larger framework.
A larger framework, yeah.
It's about finding that balance
There's a balance.
between acknowledging a potential creator
A potential creator.
and recognizing the power of free will.
Free will.
It's a complex idea,
It is.
and we've only just started to think about it.
We're just getting started.
But unfortunately, that's the end of part 1 of our deep dive.
Oh, already.
Don't worry, we're just getting started. Stay tuned for part 2,
Go to
where we'll explore these global echoes of the Anunnaki story
global echoes.
and dive even deeper into the mysteries of the Sumerian king list.
The king list. Can't wait.
Get ready for some serious mind-bending.
Mind-bending fun.
See you there.
See you there. Welcome back to our deep dive into the Anunnaki and human origins.
So before we went down that king list rabbit hole,
Rabbit hole, yeah.
we were talking
The
about,
Sumerian myths.
the Sumerian myths showing up
Everywhere.
in other cultures.
Yeah, all over the world.
And it's not just like a few random similarities.
No.
We're talking about some pretty specific parallels.
Like what kind of parallels?
Like those trios of gods.
Trios of gods, right?
And the flood stories.
Every culture seems to have a flood myth.
I know, it's like, is it really just coincidence?
That so many cultures have these like strikingly similar myths.
It really makes you wonder.
It does, yeah.
Okay, so give us some examples.
What are some of the most, I don't know, mind-blowing parallels?
Yeah, what are some of the biggest ones that you've seen?
Well, the flood myths are a good place to start.
Okay, flood mix.
We've got the Sumerian version with Zeusudra building his ark.
Right, see you
Then you've got the biblical account of Noah.
No,
But those are just the tip of the iceberg.
no, there's more.
Oh yeah, there's way more.
Like what?
Ancient Chinese texts talk about a great flood.
Really?
The Hindu scriptures describe a similar event. Even indigenous cultures in the Americas have flood stories.
So it's not just like a Judeo-Christian thing.
Nope, it's everywhere.
It seems like almost every culture has a flood myth somewhere in its history.
Tucked away in there somewhere.
But why? Why this story? What is it about this story